football hosts number 6 LSU and College game day comes to Austin. Volleyball faces Minnesota at home and travels to Stanford. And the Frank Denius Athletic Hall of Fame opens up to Texas fans. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box for our first show of the semester. I'm your host, Bailey Wald, joined by Jaxie Pidgeon. Tonight we'll be covering all things Texas sports since the start of each season. First, let's talk about Texas football. The Longhorns hosted Louisiana Tech for their season opener and had a dominant win of 45-14. This weekend, another Louisiana team, LSU, came to DKR for the first matchup since 2003.
That's right. It was a packed weekend here in Austin, starting early for ESPN College Game Day and ending late for the actual game itself. Let's head to DKR to look at a Power 10 matchup between number 6 LSU and number 9 Texas. It was game day in Texas. Starting with the first quarter, Joseph Osai picked off Joe Burrow on the 4-yard line. LSU leads 3-0 going into the second quarter. At the beginning of the second quarter, Ellinger threw a 55-yard pass to Brennan Eagles to give Texas a 7-3 lead. Later in the quarter, Joseph Osai sacks Joe Burrow for an 11-yard loss, forcing LSU to kick a field goal, making it 13-7. At the end of the second quarter, Joe Burrow throws a 21-yard pass to Justin Jefferson for a touchdown. LSU leads 20-7 at the half. Now into the third quarter, Sam Ellinger passes to Jake Smith for a 20-yard touchdown, bringing the score to 23-21. Fourth quarter, Texas is down 30-21. Sam Ellinger throws a 44-yard touchdown pass to Devin Duvernay, making the score 30-28. Late in the fourth quarter, Sam Ellinger throws a 15-yard touchdown to Devin Duvernay, bringing it to 45-38. Texas failed to recover the onside kick, which led LSU to a victory over the Longhorns.
Justin Morris was at DKR for a closer look at the game.
When the average cost for a ticket to a football game is $500, you know you are in for a good matchup. The 96,000 plus fans who were able to snag a seat at DKR were able to see the Texas Longhorns take on the LSU Tigers, the first top 10 matchup of the 2019 college football season. After a slow start, the game escalated in the second half, going back and forth, down to the wire. Texas fought back tooth and nail to contend with the Tigers, something quarterback Sam Ellinger and the rest of the Longhorns can take away from the heartbreaker.
I thought we did respond well. If there's any positive to take out of a loss, we responded well on the back end. You know, they're a really good team, and we came out in the second half and didn't quit and kept fighting. So that is positive.
Texas can thank senior wide receiver Devin Duvernay, who was a big push for the Texas offense. Even though he led the Horns in receiving yards and had 2 touchdowns, the end result he was looking for was not achieved. Fortunately, the Texas offense already knows what to improve on.
I mean, we know we did wrong. We just gotta, practice so things like that don't happen again.
Texas does play LSU in 2020, so they will seek revenge on the Tigers then, if not sooner. The buzz around campus fades away, as one of the most highly anticipated games has now passed. But the team refuses to hear any of that buzz, as stated by defensive lineman Malcolm Roach.
We're not listening to the noise. We're not listening to the outside noise. We just listen to the opinions that our teammates have and our coaches have us. So we just continue to do that. I think we'll be all right.
Whether it be the presence of ESPN's College Game Day, the trash talk coming from social media, or the sea of burnt orange, the atmosphere in the stadium on Saturday was indescribable. Head coach Tom Herman wants to keep the atmosphere like that every Saturday.
Really made an impact in the game. I thought, it was as good an atmosphere as we have seen here at DKR, and I expect more of the same when we get back home here in a couple weeks.
And no matter the hype regarding the game or the thousands of students cheering on the Texas Longhorns, right behind me over here, the Longhorns are no match for Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers as they take this one 45-38. Reporting from Darrell K. Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium, I'm Justin Morris, TSTV Sports.
Joining us now in the studio are football analyst Nick Kucholtz and Robert Trevino. Welcome back. Saturday's game was a great matchup between 2 extremely talented teams. Texas was not favored to win this game, however, they gave it a great effort, even down to the final minutes. What do you think were the strengths and weaknesses of this Texas team?
Well, for sure, a strength for Texas, a huge part from the game was their pass game offensively. Sam Ehlinger, 401 yards in the air, along with 4 touchdowns. How about Devin Duvernay and Brennan Eagles? Eagles has had an incredible start to the season, 116 yards on Saturday with the touchdown. Duvernay, by far his best game as a Texas Longhorn, 12 catches, over 150 yards receiving, 2 scores, including that huge one on 4th and 3 to keep Texas in the game. Even though Texas, we haven't heard Colin Johnson's name a lot offensively to start the season, but these two guys have really picked it up. They've done incredible to start the year. When you score 38 points offensively against one of the best defenses in the country, that should put you in position to win almost every single time. The offense did their part, as we know the defense did not.
Yeah, definitely. And to piggyback off of that, the weakness was the defense. So the mistimed aggressive calls that Texas had. Of course, you had the blitz on 3rd and 17. When you're down, you have a chance to get back in the game. You're down 1 possession. You blitz. You send 6 guys. Instead, you don't keep the play in front of you. Right there, you need to make Joe Burrow throw a short route, keep everything in front of you, let the guys make the tackle, and make them punt the ball. I think Herman defended defensive coordinator Todd Orlando, but that was still a terrible call in that situation. I think that honestly spoke to the fact that Texas didn't respect Joe Burrow enough, but Burrow also played near perfect football. He had 471 yards in the air. That's most any UT defense has given up since Graham Harrell for Texas Tech way back in the day in 2008, and that game also turned out in a loss. So I think the defense was definitely the glaring weakness for the Longhorns.
Right, and there was a lot of action and score fluctuation in this game, but what do you think was the most pivotal moment of the game that secured the win for LSU?
Well, I just talked about how awesome the offense played, and they did for the majority of the game, but what hurt Texas a lot was at the very beginning when Texas offensively had 1st and goal from the 8, then they had 1st and goal from the 4 on the very next possession. They didn't capitalize on either of those opportunities. Both led to 0 points. Texas could have been up 2 scores at the break. Instead, they found themselves down 20-7. It changed the entire momentum of the game. Why they were in shotgun formation from the 1-yard line 2 different times in a row is far beyond me. Again, it changed the momentum of the time, and it forced Texas to play from behind the rest of the game.
Yeah, definitely. But even with all those mistakes, Texas still had an opportunity to claw back in it. I mentioned it in my last response. But Jefferson's TD on 3rd and 17 was what sealed this game for the Tigers. And so the defense, it was kind of emblematic of the whole game because Texas seemed to be on the precipice of getting to the Tigers, of putting pressure on Burrow, of maybe clawing their way back in this game. But then just in the play, they also can't get there. They get there a second late. The DB misses a tackle, which has happened all day. And LSU finally puts the game away. So, we wouldn't be talking about that, obviously, if it had succeeded, if the blitz had gotten to Burrow. But it's part of the game is that you have to play pretty conservatively in those situations. And so that was the key moment for the Tigers.
Yes, and with the season just getting started and Texas coming off of a loss, what do you think this team needs to look forward to going into the Big 12 play?
Right now, it's an easy answer. It's the secondary. They've got to improve their secondary play or not. If not, the Big 12 offenses are going to light them up. Now it's going to be even harder to do. B.J. Foster's out for a couple weeks due to a hamstring injury. They've got to have guys step up. It's going to keep being really ugly for them. They've let up 811 passing yards in just 2 games to start the season. One thing I also want to see, they need to get more pressure from the defensive line. Now, the D-line is not the problem of this defense. I think they've actually had a really good start to the season. But if they get more pressure, that's going to help the defense in the secondary specifically, as I just mentioned, even more. So far, Texas, every sack so far has not come from the defensive line. It's either been a defensive back on a blitz or Joseph Osai. If Coburn, if Graham, if Malcolm Roach can get to the quarterback quicker, it's going to help the entire defensive 11. Todd Orlando's got a lot of adjustments he's got to make before Saturday, but especially before conference play starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I think especially Texas needs to focus on this is an obvious setback, but they need to keep up that aggression and play calling. I'm going to liken this to kind of the Indianapolis Colts last year. They had a game against the Texans early on in the season where they went for 4th and 1 in overtime. They missed it and lost in what could have been an easy tie, but it paid off because the team culture going forward on 4th and 1. They believed in the team, finished 9-1. So I think the Longhorns don't need to take that they didn't get those 4th downs, that they blitzed on 3rd and 17 and burned. They don't need to let that stop them from being aggressive, especially in play calling. Also, Ingram needs to start getting his confidence back, playing running back again after that drop that he had that maybe cost Texas the game. He kind of settled down. He didn't ever really get to settle down. And Roschon needs to keep looking great. He looked really aggressive in that running back spot. They're going to need him, especially going forward. And the defensive line, as Nick said, needs to put more pressure on the quarterbacks.
Thanks, Nick and Robert. Always a pleasure having you all on the show. When we come back, we will look at a top 10 volleyball matchup between Texas and Minnesota. Stick around. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Texas volleyball started off their season at the end of August and began with a 3-game win streak. They played Northern Iowa, Southern California, and Minnesota before falling to Stanford on the road.
This past Wednesday, the Texas volleyball team took on then-ranked number 8 Minnesota Golden Gophers. TSTV's very own Clark Dalton has more on this game.
The number 3 Longhorns faced the number 8 Golden Gophers in a matchup with huge poll implications. Minnesota knew that Texas was playing with a smaller rotation, so they took advantage early with an aggressive attack that propelled them to a lead. Texas would adjust, however, feeding off the energy of an electric crowd.
I just loved how engaged the fans were. That was today like an NCAA tournament. People were really involved and cared about it, and it's the best energy we've had.
The noise level kindled the Longhorns' flame. Texas would come back in each of their first 2 sets, as Logan Eggleston and Micaiah White lifted the offense, yet White didn't see her individual performance as the most important factor.
Is that we're gonna battle for each other, and we're gonna take it to the team, and we got a lot of fiery kids, and it was exciting to be tested and be pushed and see what those freshmen can do.
The freshmen have already been thrown in the fire this season, so it was critical that they respond under pressure. Tonight, they flourished.
The freshmen showed why they were ready for the challenge. In the third set, Molly Phillips and Skylar Fields skyrocketed for a combination block, followed by an Asijah O'Neal stuff. The win illustrated that the Longhorns have a deep resolve, which is a core reason this team has the potential to be special. Clark Dalton, reporting for TSTV Sports.
We now welcome in our volleyball analyst, Daniel Shih. Welcome to the show, Daniel. As we mentioned earlier, the volleyball team started off strong with 3 wins at home before traveling to California and losing 2-3. While it is still really early in the season, how significant was this loss?
I'm gonna say the Stanford loss is not significant at all. They've shown you that this team has improved dramatically over the summer. The 2018 Texas team won 1 set in 2 games versus Stanford last year, and this year they've won 2 sets already on the road at number 1 Stanford. Ultimately, the Stanford games caused Texas their elimination, but this year they show that they can stay toe-to-toe with the Cardinals. And I mean, the coaches will agree with me. Texas stayed at number 3 even after the loss, and Texas is giving a lot of credit in the 5-set loss to Stanford. And if Texas meets Stanford again in the playoffs, that's going to happen, I think. If it's at a neutral court, then I think it's just a coin flip between Stanford or Texas. And number 2, there's a lot of upsets around the nation the last couple of weeks. It's a very, very chaotic college volleyball world we're seeing right now. Minnesota's not supposed to get swept by Texas on the road, and they beat Florida, so that looks extremely well in Texas. And Baylor just one of the example that's just upsetting everybody. They beat Wisconsin when Wisconsin was ranked number 4 in the country. They beat Creighton, and they beat Marquette. And so Texas, number 3 team, losing to number 1 Stanford on the road in 5 sets is the least consequential game in terms of ranking and in terms of the impact on national image throughout this weekend.
And speaking of losses, after last season, we did lose Yasmin Badarkhani and Morgan Johnson, who are very important players for this team. But there are a handful of experienced seniors on the returning team. So who are the key players to keep an eye out for?
I think number 1, Logan Eggleston. She played tremendously in Palo Alto. She had 19 kills and counted for 22.5 points at Stanford. That's only second to Catherine Plummer on that entire court, including Stanford players. Eggleston shined on both offense and defense, and she improved on defensive skills, and that's why she's playing more in the back row. And that just gives Jenna Gabriel that one more play that she can set to whenever she's operating the offense, and that's tremendously important. And then obviously Micaiah White, she's one of the most reliable hitters on this team, and if you're the opposing team, you always have to keep an eye on Micaiah White. And then very lastly, everybody on the 40 acres need to pay attention on Molly Phillips. She won the Big 12 Freshman of the Week, and she took over Morgan Johnson's spot as the middle blocker, and she's done a very good job. She had 11 kills and 7 blocks versus Stanford yesterday, and her length and her height gave Texas a much-needed help on defense because the opposing team has to try to go around her when they're trying to spike with Molly Phillips in the middle.
All right, and like I said, still early in the season, but what are your predictions going forward, and how do you think that this Texas team will be ranked when looking ahead?
I think Texas will need to get a top 4 seed in order to finish in the Final Four. And to do that, they really just have one more test ahead of them in the non-conference. That's against BYU this Friday. And BYU isn't as good as the Final Four team they were last year. I think Texas should have a pretty good chance there beating BYU. And then after that, it's really, if you go into the Big 12, it's Baylor that's the most likely challenger in the Big 12. Again, like I said, Baylor beat Wisconsin, Creighton, and Marquette, and they were all ranked in top 20 when Baylor played them. Wisconsin in the top 4. And so Baylor is this new hot kid on the block that everybody's paying attention to, and Texas, if they can withstand Baylor in the Big 12, and that even if that means losing a couple of sets at Baylor, and then run the Big 12, beat BYU, and finish the non-conference very strongly, then I think they put themselves in a very good position to secure a top 4 seed. And as people know, if you play your Elite 8 or Sweet 16 games at home, especially the atmosphere at Gregory Gym, I think Texas will return to the Final Four.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Daniel. When we come back, Clark Dalton will be giving us a rundown on what happened on the NFL's opening week. We'll be right back. Welcome back to College Press Box, and thanks for sticking around. Let's head over to Clark Dalton for his highlights on the NFL from this weekend.
Thanks, Bailey. The chase to the Super Bowl starts now. This weekend, the NFL kicked off the regular season. For the next 20 weeks, we will gather in stadiums and around the TV to see who will lift the Lombardi. Let's head up north to Cleveland to see where the road begins. Baker Mayfield woke up feeling dangerous today, looking for his new favorite target, Odell Beckham Jr., who the Browns received this offseason in a trade from the Giants. Gets a couple extra yards after the catch, helps the linebacker up. Dontrell Hilliard, first carry, first career touchdown, and he's happy about it. He's going to go jump right into the dog pound, and they embrace him as the Browns are off to a fast start. However, Cleveland misses the extra point, and this is when the offense experiences a bit of a cold spell. Baker Mayfield fumbles at the 1-yard line. The Browns offensive line recovers. The Titans would capitalize soon after this play. Baker, frustrated Derrick Henry, dives in for a 1-yard touchdown. He would have a big day with 2 touchdowns. 12-6 heading into halftime, and it speeds up here when A.J. Brown, woo! Look at the fancy footwork. 40, headed to the 30. He gets tackled, sets up an eventual Titans field goal. He's shaking his head. You can't stop me. Browns down, but not out. Jarvis Landry, circus catch at the 2-yard line. Baker saying, hurry it up, hurry it up, hurry up. Mayfield takes the snap right across the middle. Laser to David Njoku, puts the Browns up 2 in the 3rd quarter. Titans score another touchdown. Baker trying to get him back in it, but he throws an interception to Kevin Byard. Titans are up 9 at the top of the 4th quarter. Afterwards, Mariota would find Delaney Walker for a touchdown. 3rd and 4. Baker trying to stage a miracle comeback. Logan Ryan intercepts it. A second consecutive interception for Baker Mayfield. He was down on the play, and the Titans would score another touchdown. And Mayfield, a 3rd interception, this one to former Super Bowl MVP Malcolm Butler. He sprints it, taking it for a touchdown. Not how the Browns wanted to start in week 1. They lose 43-13. Had 18 penalties as well. Baker looks up in disappointment at the scoreboard. Now let's head to AT&T Stadium, where Saquon Barkley is running all over the Cowboys defense. Oh my! Look at the man go. Awuzie saves the would-be touchdown. Saquon looking for another big season. Eli Manning, play action. Evan Ingram, touchdown. Big Blue takes the lead in Big D. Hey, maybe the Giants will bounce back this year. Dak Prescott looks to squash those hopes, though. Finds Michael Gallup for his first reception. You'll see more from him later. Prescott hesitates. Blake Jarwin rumbles and stumbles into the end zone. Cowboys tie it up. And Dak is starting to feel it just a little bit in this new offense. Prescott down the sideline. Gallup galloping along to the 40. Cowboys keep going. Prescott again. Gallup on a slant. He's running. getting the Cowboys into the red zone. And this is a moment we've all been waiting for. Jason Witten, he's back where he belongs, right in the end zone. First touchdown of the season for him. He's looking to keep the same production. Good to see him back on the field. Prescott, a dime in the corner of the end zone. 3 passing touchdowns in the first half for Dak Prescott. It looks like this Kellen Moore offense is working. He's not stopping, though. Prescott, down the seam. Amari Cooper, past midfield, ends up at the 28-yard line. Bet a lot of fantasy owners are happy that they had him this weekend. Prescott, read option. Randall Cobb, another gristled old veteran with a chip on his shoulder showing that he still has it. Prescott, Michael Gallup, 7th reception, 158 yards on the day. Giants secondary could not stop him at all. Ezekiel Elliott, they showed him money. He gets 8 yards right here. And then feed him because he's going to power through for a touchdown. Cowboys end up winning this one 35-17. Zeke finishes with 53 yards and a touchdown. Zach had 405 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Jerry Jones looks like what he sees. Lamar Jackson looked great as well. 5 touchdowns, 324 yards. One to Marquise Brown right here. Ravens win 59-10. Tom Brady, sharp as always, 341 yards, 3 touchdowns. Patriots win 33-3. And hopefully Josh Gordon can have a full season if he keeps making plays like this. And the league MVP, let's see how he'll fare. This one is Sammy Watkins. And this play kind of reminds me of that old song, Fly Away, because Sammy Watkins is flying away from the Jaguars defense. Chiefs win that one 40-26. And if we continue to see big plays like this throughout the season, it's going to be awesome. Now back to Bailey and Jaxie.
Thank you so much, Clark. When we come back, we'll take a look at the new Frank Daniels Athletic Hall of Fame. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Frank Daniels Family Athletics Hall of Fame was opened in DKR Stadium on Friday, August 30th. For the first time, Texas fans are now able to take a look at the history of Texas sports.
The University of Texas is home to numerous museums and halls that display the history of those that have come before. Just a day before the kickoff of the 2019 football season, a new hall opened on campus. This is the home of the University of Texas Athletics Hall of Fame. The north end zone of Texas Memorial Stadium now serves as a testament to the history of Longhorn athletics. The Hall of Fame houses many artifacts and trophies throughout school history, something that has been long overdue on campus.
We had one of our coaches had 21 of our baseball trophies at his house. I asked him, those belong to us? He goes, no, they're mine. I go, no, they're actually ours,
As fans pile in at the grand opening, they are greeted by Athletics Director Chris Del Conte and Texas greats, including Brian Arakpo, Derek Johnson, and Marshavet Flinthall, 3 of the 2019 Hall of Honor inductees.
So much greatness has come through this school, and now you can walk through and actually see it. So this is amazing. Like, it's breathtaking.
It's a humbling experience walking around, seeing all the names, seeing all the great athletes that came through the University of Texas, and to have my name mentioned with those players or those athletes is pretty awesome.
The opening of the Frank Daniels Family University of Texas Hall of Fame not only marks a new era in the athletics department, but also marks a new era in the athletics season.
Our fans are some of the greatest fans in the country, and all the games we won, they were a part of that history as well. Now they get to come here and relive it.
Winning moments are not the only things enshrined in the Hall of Fame. The centerpiece of it all is the Hall of Honor, a dedication to the incredible coaches and athletes that have earned their names in Texas athletics history. For Derek Johnson, being in the Hall of Honor is proof of his commitment to the burnt orange and white.
Dreams do come true. You got to work hard. You got to work hard. Hard work pays off, and this is an example of it.
An example that is here to stay for fans, recruits, and anyone who knows the winning traditions of the University of Texas.
Are not entrusted to the timid and weak.
Reporting from the University of Texas Hall of Fame, I'm Justin Morris, TSTV Sports.
Number 24 women's soccer had a huge 3-0 victory against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Sophomore Kaylee Smith scored the first goal of the game and her first career goal for Texas in the first 46 seconds. Junior Haley Berg and sophomore Julia Grosso scored the remaining 2 goals for Texas. The Longhorns have now won their last 17 non-conference home matches dating back to September 2016. Their next game is this Friday at home against the University of Washington.
The men's and women's cross-country teams swept the individual and team medals at their season opener in Waco at the Bear Twilight Invitational this weekend. In the women's 4,000-meter race, Destiny Collins and Catherine Gillespie came in first and second with times of 13:17 and 13:24 respectively. The women claimed 10 out of the top 12 times. On the men's 6,000-meter race, Sam Worley, Half-Two Knight, and John Rice and 3 others took the top 7 finishes. Both teams compete again on September 13th at the Texas Invitational in Round Rock.
For the first time in Longhorn history, a female student athlete is having a jersey retired. Kami Etheridge played basketball for the University of Texas from 1982 to 1986 and is now receiving the honor of having her number 33 jersey retired. During her time at UT, the team made the NCAA tournament all 4 years and still to this day, she holds the program record for career assists with 776. Etheridge won an Olympic gold medal with the United States at the 1988 Seoul Games and was later inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 2002. The jersey number retirement will not conflict with any current players. Congrats, Cami, on this notable honor.
On Friday, Texas volleyball plays BYU at 4:30. Soccer plays Washington at home at 7 p.m., which you can find on LHN. Track and field is at the Texas Invitational all day. On Saturday, volleyball plays Wichita State at 7 p.m., football plays at Rice at 7 p.m., which is on CBS, and on Sunday, soccer plays Monmouth at 1 p.m., which will also be on LHN.
And that wraps up our show for tonight. From all of us here in the studio and everyone in Master Control, thank you for joining us on your Monday night. Be sure to tune in to the 1-0 Sports Show on Friday mornings for the best sports talk show on the 40 acres. Until then, I'm Jaxie Pidgeon alongside Bailey Wald. Have a great night.